And we're recording. So, hello, this is Martin, and I'm with Brother Littlefoot. And I'm going to start with a quick video to introduce him, and it's going to lead right into some questions, and we'll go from there. So, here we go. I met Brother Littlefoot not long ago in the comments under one of my videos. YouTube has become a sanctuary of sorts, a place for meeting like-minded people who are also into this fascinating subject. He introduced himself, and I could tell that we share a similar interest in the Sasquatch people. And I love learning about this and hearing from others with experiences. Brother Littlefoot has written a book titled, "He's Not Hairy, He's Our Brother." I found this title interesting, and this isn't the first time that I have heard of the Sasquatch referred to as our siblings. On his YouTube channel, he has a number of videos with some recordings, some experiences shared, and he also reads a couple chapters from his book with Sasquatch around him. I too have had experiences when I was where they were around me, and I love this idea of reading with them around. I did also hear some interesting sounds in those videos. That being said, I do not know much else about Brother Littlefoot and his experiences, and I look forward to asking some questions and learning about them. Next, I have a couple questions to ask, and then we will just go wherever this conversation takes us. So that's it, and
Can I thank you for that great introduction?
absolutely. So, you mentioned to me the idea of being tagged or marked and the subsequent gift of discovering, I wrote that twice, them in many places you never thought you would. Can you talk on that?
Yeah, they can show up in a residential neighborhood, no problem. Uh,
Mm.
they don't give a shit. And, pardon me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use that word, but I
It's
mean,
all good.
I don't know if I can cuss on here or not. So
I, I think it's fine.
okay. I'll be careful with my. I just if children are watching, I'm not trying to encourage you to upset your mothers and fathers, but or to get your big brother, your little brother, little sister in trouble.
Yeah.
But anyway, they can show up anywhere they want to. They've shown up behind almost all of my friends and family's homes that I've visited in the last little while, and they're living there. They're there every time I go. Whether they teleport out when I'm gone, I don't know. But there's, maybe they just go to the forest nearby or whatever. But they're there, and I mean, they can be. I've I've been in contact with them many nights in a row in a place that was quarter acre lots in a small town in Mississippi, with the highway just right, maybe a quarter mile down the road, and then of course many businesses and stuff along the highway. It's a busy little town. Just because it's small
Wow.
doesn't mean it's it's a very busy town. Um, but anyway, and there were street lights everywhere, and there are people everywhere. I've
Mm.
sat like in one of the houses I stayed at, and behind the home there was a privacy fence from another home, and they would have a party every now and then. And they had a party one night, and I sat out there and I talked with the Sabe people while they were having a party, while the humans were having a party just over the fence from the Sabe people. And the Sabe people are just in this little strip of trees, little strip of bushes. I keep my back to them when I'm talking to them, so they can talk to me more comfortably and not feel like, because they don't want to be seen. So,
Drawing attention.
yeah. And I just stand out there and smoke cigarettes in the backyard and just act like I'm smoking, talking to myself. For all people now, I'm talking. I've got the mic on me. I'm recording, so I might as well be talking on the phone nowadays. But and I tell the Sabe people that. I let them know. People just think I'm talking on the phone or something,
Mm.
but or talking to myself and I'm crazy. That's good enough.
Fair enough.
The way they don't know you're there. And there were nights I would hear them knocking and looking all over the neighborhood, especially when everybody went inside. Because it's
Wow.
down in Mississippi and it was in the wintertime. There, it gets cold. Everybody's going inside.
Mm.
They don't like the cold down there. And, but the Sabe people would be out making noise. What was interesting is that when they had that party, when the humans had that party on the other side of that privacy fence, right? Not even, I don't know, about 30 yards from the house I was staying in, and I'm talking to the Sabe people, but in that 30 yards in between, little strip of trees right there, but there's yards behind each home. There's like a home everywhere, quarter acre lots, or half quarter acre lots, maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah, eighth acre lots. Actually, that'd be more accurate. I'm sorry, eighth acre lots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got to witness the party from their view. And I'm sitting with them, even though I'm not seeing them. They're around. They're talking to me a little. They're quieter because they're hiding from the humans. But I could feel their attention drawn to what was going on over that fence.
Okay.
So I'm getting to sit with them and feeling their energy and knowing, having a good idea of what they're doing and how they're reacting to what's going on. Because I've been around them before, where I was talking to some up on a mountain and they were looking down at a house that a party was going on, and they were far more interested in what was going on at that party than they were talking to me.
Wow.
At another place, this was
Yeah.
back here in the mountains. But I remember that, and so that was interesting to me to see that play out again, but so both times I'm experiencing the party from their point of view in a way. I'm not
Wow.
in their bodies, but I'm still getting to kind of sit with them and like as brothers, as peers, and just watch the party.
Sort of vicariously through them. It reminds me of often if I tell something about a movie or something, tell someone about a movie or whatever, if
Yeah.
I watch it again, it's like I'm sort of seeing it through a fresh set of eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm gonna put on just a little bit of light just because I feel like it makes me look like I'm trying to do some kind of crazy occult stuff or something on your show.
My face is basically lit up from the computer screen.
Yeah, I'm surprised mine. Actually, maybe that would help. Let me do that. I'm sorry, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Hey, it's like a ghost out of the darkness, right?
Hey, it's something, right?
Okay, is that better? That looks fine.
Yeah, I can see you a
And
bit
and
more
I
now.
don't look too white. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, so I can dig this. All right. Anyway,
All right.
yeah, and they can be in many places, and when they tag you, they will likely follow you.
Mm-hmm.
I say follow. I don't know how they do that, whether they're teleporting or what. But I
Yeah.
think what happens is you literally become a part of their tribe. You become like
Mm.
an outside member of their tribe.
Mm.
Um, you're not going to go home and eat dinner with them or anything like that. But they will come to where you are, and they will eventually probably start coming to some of your families and friends' homes if they like them.
Do you mean
Um,
like they would? Because I was wondering, like, definitely what you were describing was at least initially you were the catalyst, but are you also saying that they might stay around even when you leave? They might still be around some of those homes.
Oh yeah, I definitely believe. Like, well, one of the places they're at is the place where my father was born and raised, and it's an empty home now. It's also a very very haunted home. But I found them behind that home, and they're there every time I go back to visit my family in Mississippi. They're there at all the places. The family cabin.
Wow.
They're at my cousins, a few different cousins. They're at a family friend's house, and the family friend who's in their 70s, they know. Actually, my father married this couple, and they came up here first, and they wanted to have an experience, and I took them out in the field. And each time the woman, whose name is Nancy, she said, "I want to be your friend." She would tell them. She would
Oh
ask me
wow.
what I called them by their name, and she say like, and she did it here at the house. And Bobo and they actually talked to them like they like them because they're sweet. In their 70s. They're totally harmless. You know what I mean? And
Wow.
and they went back to Mississippi, and I went down there to visit with them, and they had a bunch of land, and I just went out to go walk around the property, really not really looking for Sasquatches. I mean, just it's always in the back of my mind now, just because I know how they are.
Yeah.
I saw a little trail, and down there's a lot of pine trees. There was a bunch of pine needles on the ground. I saw a little trail where the pine needles were flattened out, and it just went right straight into some brush. There were no big, great holes in the brush or anything like that. But I just felt something. I don't know what to say other than I felt something.
Hmm.
And then I came back later. I went back out there after dark, and I started talking to them. And I got Larry and Nancy, his wife, to come out with me. And I have this recording somewhere. I don't know where it is, but and we got them to make a sound. The Sasquatches were on their territory, on the property.
Wow.
They made a loud snap in the tree and way up high in the tree. And
Hmm.
Larry goes, "I heard that." And since then, I've gone back. Every time I go to Mississippi, I'll go and visit with Larry and Nancy, and at least Larry and I will walk out there. But we walked out there with the three grandchildren the last time I was there. Not the last time, time before last, I'm sorry. And there are ages 9, 10, and 11, I think. Yeah.
Hmm.
and we took them out there, and they were excited. They knew what we were going to do, and we sat them
Wow.
down in chairs, and the Sasquatches came out and talked to them, and they were so friendly.
Wow.
We even saw like a black shadow that kept moving in the trees, a big black shadow that stayed near one tree. I asked
Wow.
the children, I said, y'all see that? And the boy said, yeah, I was seeing that before you said something. I just wasn't sure it was real or not. And I said, yeah, it's kind of the way they look sometimes. They don't really have a form all the time.
Hmm.
But anyways, they had a great experience. They heard lots of responses. I got the kids to talk to them. I got them telling their names, telling what they like doing, telling
Wow.
what was fun to them, and tell them, and always tell when you're taking kids out, always teach them to be respectful.
Hmm.
I got to take one of my young cousins out who I didn't even know. His name's Tristan. I took him out with me, and we were already on another cousin's property, and I'd never been out there before to talk to him. And I took Tristan with me, and they talked to us, man, right away. And Tristan was like bowing to him and saying
Wow.
thank you and all these before I could even get a chance to tell him. I'm like, dang, it must be in our family's blood or something.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's a gift. When you share it with a child,
And they get
wow,
it.
they love children.
Wow.
They love
Wow.
children, and I don't mean because they taste good. I'm just being silly.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. They love children. They
I could
like
see that.
when people say, "Oh, they might hurt children." They're trying to look for. Somebody says, "Oh, well, there's a Sasquatch watching children. Oh, they might try to take one." No, they just. I like. I don't. I'm not. Into anything negative or bad at all. I like watching children play sometimes.
It's
I don't
innocent.
stop I don't stop the car and go where they are,
Yeah.
but if I'm walking by, I like it. I love the sounds of them laughing and having a good time. I love the sounds of my neighbors' kids
Yeah.
outside having a good time. Like I enjoy the sounds of the birds chirping.
I was just thinking, it's similar. I like to watch maybe baby pigs, baby goats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I watch any animal videos or
Just
animals with babies, you
it's
know.
pure, innocent. You know.
And whatever, if you're hurting at all or angry, it totally changes your excuse me, it
Yeah.
totally changes your mood. You're
Yeah.
like, wow, I love watching husky videos. I want a
Okay.
husky so bad because huskies don't bark,
Mm.
so they talk. So if I take one out as a puppy and teach him how to be around the Sabe people, he'll talk to them. Like
Wow. Yeah.
that's how huskies do.
I was
That's
just gonna say, my sister is in Montana right now,
hmm.
and she's been sending me videos of buffalo, and she just saw a couple of grizzly bears at this thing where they have a couple rescued grizzlies, and the grizzlies were literally playing like a little puppy with one of them with a ball. And the buffaloes just sit in the road.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Well, and you don't know how much wisdom is behind those eyes.
Yeah.
It's We judge intelligence according to our own. We have to remember what Einstein said, and he wasn't right about everything, but he was right about this. You cannot judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that goes double for the Sabe people. And,
Hmm.
and then take everything that we're learning about the Sabe people and then project it out in a positive way onto all the animals of the world, even the plants.
I like that.
And everything else that may be out there. And it's not to say that we're dumber than everything, and just to go ahead and assume that's a
Yeah.
fact that we're dumber than everything, everything's wiser than us. Just assume there's a possibility that everything else has some wisdom too. Not better, not greater, not worse, just some other wisdom,
Hmm.
a different view. Same thing with the Sabe people. Imagine treat every type of animal, and you can't do this as far, you don't want to go get close to black bears, and it would be wrong. It would be interfering with wildlife and their natural ways. But as far as just being in the forest and being at peace with things, treat
Hmm.
everything as if it's a tribe of humans that live out there that don't mind you
Hmm.
being there, but they don't want to be bothered.
Hmm.
And I look at the Sabe people that way too.
Hmm.
But if they accept you, then you can entertain them, you
Hmm.
know. And I found that with animals sometimes. I know it's strange, but crows ravens definitely had some interesting things happen with crows and ravens. Me and Brian
Wow.
both. We believe we had a raven follow us for 3 miles as we drove a car, because I drove my car back from one hiking area to another. Um,
Interesting.
and I left at half of a Cliff Bar, a chocolate Cliff Bar, which was a heavy bar, on a fence post that we had parked right in front of. What happened was the Raven landed right on the fence post in front of our car where I parked, right after I parked my car.
Wow.
And then and it swooped down right in front of us as we were, it had followed us. I'm sorry, I'm going into something completely different, but this is just, it's a story about animals. So
That's, I
let me
like it.
start it the right way. We'll tell it quickly. But we went to hike in a place called Big Rock. And we went and hiked. It's a mile hike up the rock, and then you hike a mile back down. But then there's like a 4 mile hike down by a river, and then you come back up the rock again. It was 5 miles total. So
Oh, the phone's ringing. That's weird.
I'm wrong about the 4 miles. But I think it's 5 miles in total is what it is. So it's probably three miles down by the river, 2.5 miles. That's what it was. So, anyways, there's one rock going, 1 mile going up, another mile going down, then you got like 2 miles or so, 2 to 2.5 miles going along the river, then 1 mile coming back up, another mile going back down. So I'm sorry, it's more like a 6 mile hike, I guess.
Okay.
But we had done the part where we had go back. It's been a while since I did the hike, so that's why I'm forgetting. It's been like, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. We had done the hike where we were coming back up the mountain, and we got to the top, and we were sitting there eating Cliff Bars, and this raven starts just going around the circles above us. And I felt it. I knew it. I knew it was watching us. It wanted something, whether it just wanted food or whatever. It was watching us.
Mm.
Brian already had a relationship with crows and ravens, and he still does. They still come around him in a weird way. It's different,
Mm.
It's them doing their thing. They don't come around me like they do around him. But this one, I just told Brian, I said, I feel like this thing's watching us with something. And then we walked down the mountain. It's about a mile. As soon as we walked out towards the parking area, that raven swooped right down in front of us, man.
Wow.
I said, I know that's the same one. And then we got in the car and we drove all the way up the road to some waterfall that's about it's 2 to 4 miles away. I don't know exactly how far. This is a whole forest that I just haven't been to in a while. I need to go out there and try to talk to Sabe people, but it'd be a long drive. But it's about an hour or so away from my house, about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes, something like that. But anyways, we got to the other waterfall, to the parking area, and I parked my car. A raven, whether it's the same one or another one, comes and lands right on the fence post, right in front of my car.
Wow.
And there's plenty of other fence posts to land on where there's no humans around. Why would it land on the one right where a car is in movement towards the post?
Mm.
It makes no sense.
Mm.
And because there was hardly anybody else in the parking area. As soon as we got out, it flew away, but it stayed near. And I held my Cliff Bar up in the air, and I said, "Here, this is for you," and I put it on the fence post. And we went and did the hike, which was about a mile up and a mile back. And we came back, and my Cliff Bar was gone, and there was a black crow feather, raven feather at the bottom of the fence post. And I still have it to this day. I told
Wow.
Brian, I said, well, if it's your relationship with it, you need to keep this. And he said, I'd rather you. You're better at keeping things like that. And he's right. I can keep things forever. But so that happened, and again, that's just, there's other people telling stories like that of ravens and crows.
Well, it's funny because I've heard people tell stories of a connection between Sabe and ravens.
Yeah, I've heard. I kind of think ravens don't like, or crows don't like them, because I'll hear
Hmm.
crows start calling where they are sometimes, and I have a feeling that they do that with predators, with
Yep.
large predators and so on. So I think there's that going on. I think there's more of a relationship. Personally, this is just me personally. I think there's more of a relationship now. And crows are what I call the owls of the daytime, but I think there's more relationship between Sabe and owls.
Hmm.
Like I really feel that when I'm around them, and then the owls come around. I think they have a relationship with all animals in the forest. I don't think it's just one or the other.
Hmm.
But definitely, I feel a connection with owls. And
Hmm.
owl sounds are what they use.
Yeah.
They don't try to mimic a crow, which wouldn't be that hard for them, I wouldn't think. So they
Yeah.
use owl sounds. So maybe they feel a closer connection. Owls have to do in totem energy. Owls have to do with seeing into the spirit world, because they can see into the night. They have great vision, great night vision.
Hmm.
They can see into the darkness.
Okay.
So maybe that's the medicine. that they're carrying, that the Sabe people themselves are carrying for themselves, because they
I
have
know.
great night sight. The Sabe do.
Yeah,
That's why they don't like lights. That's one reason they don't like lights. People don't understand that. It's because it
I've
hurts
thought
their
of that.
eyes. They're adjusted to complete darkness.
Mm-hmm.
They're not adjusted to artificial light.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
would probably hurt.
Yeah, yeah, to some degree, definitely. Like I said, I told you before, I believe they have slits over their eyes. I believe these are it's like a second eyelid,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe these come out to protect their eyes from heavy light sometimes. I've seen my car lights reflect in them when I've seen them before. I've seen my
Wow.
headlamp, my red bulb headlamp, reflect back in the young Sabe man's eyes. He's about 4 to 6 years old, and
Wow.
his eyes were red to me, and I said, "Oh my God, he's got red eyes." And then I said, "Wait a minute, this is how dumb humans are. This is what we need to start looking at. We need to start looking at ourselves in these situations and how we're acting, how we're responding, what we're doing." But to me, the fact that I looked into his eyes, saw red eyes, and in that moment became scared that I was looking at a red-eyed Sabe person and all the stories I'd heard about him and blah blah blah. Just for a moment, I mean, literally, just the briefest moment.
Yep.
Until I said, "Wait a minute, that's my red bulb shining." But that's the metaphor,
Yeah,
the way that humans fear their people.
that's a good one.
That's how we are. That it literally, you can compare it to, you walked out there with a red light and you shine it in their eyes and you said, "Oh my God, they got red eyes," and they were just trying to be nice and show themselves to you.
Yeah.
They were being nice enough to show themselves to you, and then you freaked out. And what if I would have reacted differently?
Or imagine if you were camping with your brother, and you jumped right behind him and you scared the crap out of him, and then a Sabe jumped right behind you, and you were like, "What? Why are they trying to kill me?"
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, exactly. Yeah, yeah. They're doing the same thing you did to your brother. I don't mean to use this term in a derogatory way, but monkey see, monkey do. And, hey, we can all call ourselves monkeys to some degree.
Well, if you look at some of the things I've heard it framed in the through a lens of humor, a lot of people consider a house slap or something like that terrorizing. But
No,
then
I had them slap my house, and it was one of the most. It was like it's like getting a pat on the back.
yeah, and it to me when I heard people sort of frame it like you just did, it actually makes more sense. But also, um, slapping a house at 3 in the morning reminds me of things I did when I was 14. Like we used to do pranks like that too.
They're just messing with you sometimes.
Yeah.
They mess with my neighbors. My neighbors don't really talk to them, but they know they're here, and they never give them a problem. They don't shine a bunch of lights out on them or anything. And but they've had a couple nights where they told me they were smacking smacking the tops of the trash cans, and I said, "It's probably just the children." He said it's weird because I felt like it was children were messing with me, and there's no children around here that go around, doing stuff like that.
They ever set off a car alarm?
Not that I know of. No, I don't have an alarm on my car, so
Mm.
I don't. Nobody wants to steal my car, so it's not worth much. But no, they've never set up a car alarm. I've heard them. They've thrown things on the house. They used to do that a lot here, mostly like acorns and stuff.
Mm.
They would do it when it was. I would hear things fall when it's out of season, and
Mm.
then the guy that would go up to clean the gutters, I would say, "Is there a bunch of rocks on the roof?" And he'd be like, "No." So I don't understand what in the world was going on or how they do that. They can make sounds out of nowhere.
I've heard that.
I visited with one family in the broad daylight, and they were all around me talking to me, and I could hear them moving around and talking, and I got it on recorder. It's on my channel. It's called Daylight Encounter, and you have to go down to where everything's timestamp in the description,
Yeah.
questions and responses. I don't do that on every video, but I do it on several of them. It takes a lot of work to do all that.
Yeah.
But when you go down, you can find where this is where I said something, and this is where they responded. And there was my computer guy who does all my work to put all my stuff on YouTube. I don't do any of that. I don't know how to do any of that well anymore. It keeps changing.
Hmm.
Every formats keep changing, so I take it to my computer guy and I pay him, and he does all the work for me. He listens to all the videos, and he knows he wasn't a believer until after I started coming to him with all these I say videos, audio recorded.
Mm.
And he said, "Yeah, dude, I can definitely hear something responding to you." He's like, "There's no doubt about
Mm.
it." You know, I keep
Wow.
trying to get him to come over here to play guitar with me out front, and he's a good
Oh.
guitarist, and I want to play music for them. They love music, they really do. I played there is a place, and I'm not going to say where it's at, but there is a place that is listed on the BFRO website as a reported Sasquatch sighting by a father and son, and it's not far from where I live. I already knew they were there before that report was there. I didn't put the report there. I don't ever report. I prefer people not report their sightings to the BFRO. There's no point in it. It doesn't do anybody any good. Somebody may come out there and try to help you or whatever, but they're connected to the government.
Hmm.
And I don't like what they do because they expose where they are. Do you want people knowing where you are so they can come shine lights on your house, put recorders
Wow.
outside your house or cameras outside your house or throw food in your yard? Do you want that?
True.
Do you want
Mm.
that? You have to look at things from their perspective. But anyways, you have to help me out. Where was I going with this?
The sighting, the
Oh
father and
yeah, yeah,
son.
this place. Sorry, yeah, thank you, brother. Um, I went up there. It wasn't too long ago, a few weeks ago. The road's closed up there right now. They close it off and on throughout the winter. But because it's way up high on the mountain, you're talking 5,000 feet elevation.
Wow.
But I went up there and I went and told them when they got when it was reported that they were on the BFR site. I
Wow.
said, I just want you to know that some human saw you, and now any human that wants to go on this part of the computer can look up and see that you were seen here.
Wow.
I said, they don't have a picture of you, but they saw you, and they're telling all the other humans this is where you are. And not only that, but I've been back up there since, and I played Gomez for them. You ever heard the band Gomez?
Mm-mm.
You ought to check them out, dude. They're great. They've been around for a while. They're like a modern Beatles, and I'm not an anti Beatles or for the Beatles, but they're very melodic like the Beatles. Very awesome, three lead singers kind of thing going.
Okay.
But I played some Gomez for them, and I played
Hmm.
them three songs, and they're songs I love, and they got quiet the entire time. And I mean,
Wow.
it was pretty loud, heavy bass. I like a lot of heavy bass, and when I got through playing the three songs, um, well, I said, I don't know if y'all like that or not.
Hmm.
So when I said like that, they were like, and then I said, okay, I'm not sure, but I think you said, and like they liked it because they were quiet the whole time it was happening. If they didn't like it, they would start making noise, like stop that, stop
Mm.
that noise.
Okay.
So they enjoyed it, is what I got from it because they were quiet the whole time, and that's the way they always are. They'll get quiet and listen
Mm.
to music. They want to hear every little sound, every little. And with Gomez, that band is very layered. Same thing with Typo Negative, but we were talking about that earlier. I love Typo Negative. It's a heavy metal band. Their lead
Mm.
singer died some years ago, but I'll play their music for them sometimes, and their music's very melodic and it's very
Mm.
layered. So there's lots of different sounds to hear in there, and that's what they like. And I think they like all kinds of music except for things that are just too dissonant,
Okay.
or things that have too much screaming. I think things that are melodic because
Mm.
melody pulls emotions together.
Mm.
It does. It pulls sadness and joy, and that's what creates the blues music.
Mm-hmm.
It's a celebration of suffering. Um,
Mm.
and anyways, and so they get to feel. They're hearing it and they're feeling it, and it's almost for them when they're listening to a song, it's like watching a movie that they really want to see.
Mm.
Not that they do that, but I mean, actually, they do watch movies. That's another story. But they can, if you hear stories about them watching people's TVs and things like that, it can be very true. It might be true.
I have heard that.
Yeah, and I can't vouch for obviously for every person who says that, but I don't know. I'm not in that situation, but yeah, it happens. It's a regular thing here. And as a matter of fact, they have more control of the TV in my home than I do. And I'm okay with that. I don't like watching TV, and I just leave it on for them. And their favorite things to watch are Fail Army, which you can find on YouTube. Fail Army is people trying tricks and messing up all the time.
Really?
Yeah, and they
Like
like
slapstick
yeah,
comedy?
well, like home videos, like
Okay.
Funniest Home Videos or something, but
Funny
without all
stuff.
the interruptions of people talking, through it. They just want to see the videos.
Okay.
And yeah, or slapstick comedy that could be entertaining to them. They don't like violence. they like fantasy movies, and they can deal with the level of violence that's in some fantasy movies. I have played all three of the Lord of the Rings movies for them before. They watch the TV through my window on my 55-inch screen.
Wow.
Um, I played Harry and the Hendersons for them, which is probably the most ironic thing that's ever happened in the universe. Seriously, think about that. That movie, and I advise people to go back and watch that movie because that really is the best explanation of who they really are. They're not going to come in your home like that, but or they might disappear and come in your home like that, like they do with Mike. I don't know. I've not really had a lot of that, but a little bit of it, but not in this home so much. But they respect my boundaries and territory here. They don't, and I respect theirs too. So I don't go into their territory without a reason, and that's to clean something up or to leave them food. And I let them know. If I can let them know a day ahead of time, I do. If I can't, I let them best know I can. And they usually just put up with me. They may even snap something at me or whatever, let me know. And I'll just say, I know, man, I know. Just give me a minute.
Wow. That reminds me, or makes me think. I've definitely heard of some stories where somebody felt a boundary might have been crossed, on their property. And it makes you wonder, just because you own that land back there, if you considered that to be theirs,
I don't own any land. I'm a renter, first of all. I just want to catch you there. This is what I tell them. I'll tell them that the landlords own this property and that I have to tell other humans that, because if I don't, then any humans can come and go on the property if they want to.
Yeah.
But I have to tell them that this is my property. But I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's your territory. This is my home. This is my space. This is your territory. I have my space in your territory. And they know.
Yeah.
Okay, we're cool with that.
Because I'm just thinking, no matter who, no matter what person owns it on paper, but mainly
paper, they don't give a shit, dude. That's pieces of a tree to them.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, but what I'm thinking of is the red eye shine thing.
Yeah.
Like basically, I can. You just said I respect their territory and they respect mine.
Yeah.
If you were to look at things like their territory is the forest, mine is my yard and my house.
Yeah.
I would think a lot of people live a total double standard as far as, they might go out into the woods and do whatever they want on their, the people that live in the house. And then they feel like, why did they just come onto my yard? In a sense, you're basically kind of doing the same thing if you look at it that way. And I can see, the person saying, well, I own it, but
half
if they
problems. Sorry, but
just if the Sasquatch do live out there, then it is theirs.
Half the problems between humans and I'd say, well, 90% of the problems between Sasquatches and humans are because humans are ignorant. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. We just are ignorant of the fact that they're there to begin with.
Yeah.
We're ignorant of the fact that the earth does not belong to us, no matter how many pieces of paper we have or how much money we've invested into a piece of land. That only gives us right to say it's ours within the human world as long as this human world lasts like it does.
Yeah.
Martial law gets declared, things may change very quickly. And different humans may own different homes all of a sudden. Yeah. If they're not able to protect their homes. So the piece of paper won't matter anymore. If our government fails, those pieces of paper won't matter anymore. Sasquatches could look at those pieces of paper as a snack or something to wipe their ass with. I mean, it really not. It does not matter to them. I know it's cliche, but the bumper sticker that says that the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. I mean, maybe in the spirit world, I believe our spirits live forever and we go somewhere in the spirit world. Personally, that's what I feel and I've experienced in different ways. But I agree with that, this body comes from the earth. It's of the earth. It's made of the organic dust and matter of the earth. From my mother, who also came from the earth herself, and it's going to die and go back to the earth.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. And you cannot take one dead gum thing of those, any possessions
with you
to the other side there with you, as far as I know, and there's no need for them.
Yeah.
Over there. from what I've seen. So, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
different story. But so yeah, I don't. I think people, when people have pieces of paper that say I own land, they should own it in their minds loosely, and realize now that these Sabe people, I don't know what's happening. If maybe worlds are merging, and maybe there was a time where all these Sabe people have always been here, but somehow there was a veil between worlds, and we weren't as aware of them. And now that everything is culminating, we are coming to 20, 30 years away from the pole shift, according to sun forecaster Ben Davidson on Suspicious Observers on YouTube. He's a weather meteorologist, a space weather meteorologist. The man has 3 degrees. He has NASA scientists that watch his show. So anyone that doesn't agree with me or has any problem with what I'm saying, they can go and watch the show and get the facts if I say anything wrong, because I don't want to speak for Ben or speak for suspicious observers. But I want
Hmm.
to share what I've learned from watching that show. And they give daily sun forecasts, what the sun's going to do. Everything the sun does affects the earth.
Hmm.
So if the sun spits out some solar storms, we could have earthquakes on the earth. And there's theories that it's because there's, piezo, crystal, quartz, what have you, inside the rocks of the earth, and it could cause them to have an electrical discharge, you know. And the Earth's magnetic field is weakening to a state that it hasn't weakened in 6,000 years, or at a rate, certainly. And according to sun forecasters, we have 20 to 30 years before the sun micronovas, which it will turn red for one day, then black for 3 days, then it will blow off its shell and it will start light up again. But during that period of darkness, that's when we're going to have massive tsunamis on the earth, supposedly, and this has happened every 6 to 12,000 years. It's a cyclical thing.
Hmm.
It's not because God is coming back to judge us. It's not because of any other reason. And I'll tell you straight up what I believe, and I'm just adding one little belief into this. I believe this earth is a biological living machine,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. And that's going into something much deeper, but I believe the whole solar system is a biological living machine, because how in the world can you explain a planet staying in the Goldilocks zone for millions of years and allowing life to live, survive, and even thrive on it, to the point that we have, what's the words? We've wasted ourselves away. We're thriving so well.
Hmm.
Most of us, not everyone. And I honor that. Definitely people are still suffering. There will always be people suffering and struggling. I honor that. But many of us, have wasted ourselves away. We have way more than we could ever need. So, anyways, this this micronova is going to happen, and there will be great tsunamis across the earth, and only the high mountains will be the safe places, and that doesn't guarantee anyone anything. And there'll be lots of rain on the earth. It will be as in the days of Noah, as
Hmm.
they say, or I could say in the days of Gilgamesh, or whenever, when the Epic of Gilgamesh was written, because it's older than the Bible. But I don't know if for sure they have found Noah's Ark, but they are finding, archaeologists are finding boats on top of mountains, large, large, large ark-sized boats,
Wow.
and that's all over YouTube. I'm
Hmm.
not going to sit here and say it's Noah or it's not Noah.
Hmm.
Okay, it could be, it may not be. Throw that out. What the heck are large arcs doing 6,000 feet up in the air?
Yeah.
One of them is 6,300 feet. And in the Bible, it says that Noah would land in the mountains of Ararat, and it's Mount Ararat, what they
Wow.
call Mount Ararat.
Hmm.
Um, and there's other arcs, apparently. There's other boats they found, other large boats that are, high elevations.
Hmm.
Uh, Humans aren't going to build boats on top of a mountain and leave them there. But that's the only other way they could have gotten there. They're not going to put all that manpower up there and for no reason. So
Hmm.
the reason I'm talking about this is because there are prophecies, definitely with the Ojibwe, definitely with the Navajo people, and there are other tribes in North America. And please consider that even though the tribes carry stories to one another, that the Ojibwe people are in Canada and the Navajo people are in Arizona. So let's just get that straight right now. They're very far away from each other.
Hmm.
Not that they wouldn't have connections, but they are very far away. They both have the same prophecy about the Sabe people, whom the Ojibwe named. I'm sorry, I need to give them credit for that. The Ojibwe people came up with the word Sabe. From what I understand, from what I listened to, listening to some Ojibwe people, was that they said that it means grandfathers of honesty. So when I talk to the Sabe people, I like to include the grandmothers too. So I say grandmothers and grandfathers of honesty and truth, because they
Hmm.
seem to respond when I say the word truth. They seem to respond to that word more as if they hear that more. That's the word they speak.
Hmm.
Honesty, they still haven't. I try to explain. It's basically the same thing as truth, you know.
Yeah.
But they like that name. When I tell them Sasquatch just means people of the forest or wild man or wild woman, I said it's really too simplified for you. Bigfoot's, like, I don't know, just silly. But I'm
Yeah.
wearing. I want to point out I'm wearing a Bigfoot shirt, but it says Bigfoot does not believe in you either. I don't know if you believe that or not, but so and it's a gift from a friend who goes out and talks to the Sabe people with me, and it's a gift from her mother, and her mother
Wow.
passed away. So and her
Hmm.
name is Faye, and I just want to give her a little honor here on your
Hmm.
show. So thank you for letting me do that. But I lost my train of thought again, brother. If you could help me out just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it was you were correlating between the big ships that were found and
Oh
then this.
yeah, I'm sorry. And the prophecies. Thank you, brother. The prophecies of the Navajo and the Ojibwe people and other tribes, other nations of peoples. I don't know exactly which ones. That you would have to look up. I think the documentary is called Sasquatching, and that would be Sasquatch apostrophe N. And it's a
Okay.
documentary. It's free on YouTube. It's very positive, very, very, very good.
Hmm.
But anyway, they said that when the hairy man starts showing up all over the world, that the end times will come.
Hmm.
Or I say a great change will come on the earth. Because it's the end times for who? You know?
Hmm.
So it's not the end of all of life. The earth has done this before. Life has continued on somehow, whether it was through arcs or whatever. I'm fine with whatever. I'm not
Hmm.
arguing religion here. So um, a great change will come on the earth. So now we're seeing that the sun forecasters are actually saying this now. I'm not saying every sun forecaster is, but Ben Davison has got his facts together. And that's why I highly recommend him on Suspicious Observers. He does not talk about Sasquatch. He does not talk about the Sabe people. Um, but he talks strictly about the sun and how it affects us daily and how it will affect us in coming times, and how it will affect the Earth and how it will affect all the planets, how it's already affecting all the planets, how there are changes that are going on all the other planets that show that there are pole shifts happening on every planet in our solar system.
Hmm.
There's also a galactic sheet that we're about to pass through that could cause problems within the next 10 to 13 years. That would be
Hmm.
interesting to see. But either way, Sabe people are showing up all over the world. My work somewhat proves that. I found 9 families in Mississippi, and I talked to over 130 families in the mountains of North Carolina.
Wow.
Um, and and where I go in Mississippi is a very small area, and there's still a lot more places I can't stop because it's private property.
Hmm.
North Carolina has a lot of, in the mountains, there's a lot of places that's, like government property that you can pull over and park on and, enjoy the view or whatnot. Um, it's just where can you go? But for every family I find, I have to assume there's 3 or 4 more I don't find. So if I found 140 families, or even some of them may be troops, then those troops could count for other troops.
Hmm.
So you start thinking about it. There's probably more Sabe. I'm going to guess there's more Sabe people here in the Appalachian Mountains than there are black bear.
Wow.
I'm going to guess that. I'm going to say if not, it's neck and neck. But I'm going to say there's more Sabe people, and people would say how. I understand that, and I'd say I don't really know, other than that maybe they're better managers of the land. I
Hmm.
do know that Sabe people will have families that live right next to each other.
Okay.
There'll be one Sabe family here. You go down a quarter mile, or not even a quarter mile down the road, might be another Sabe family.
Huh.
You go a quarter mile, it might be another one.
Hmm.
And they'll have up to 5 of them or more on that land.
Hmm.
And they're just very peaceful with one another. And I think they work together a lot.
That makes sense.
But I really do believe that they're very good managers of the land and that they don't take more than they need.
Hmm.
Um, and then maybe that's something else we have to learn from them. And that was just something that would take time to learn.
Hmm.
But maybe they're master conservationists.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of things about them we don't understand. Maybe they go into another world and find food.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, they love treats though.
Yeah.
I give
Yeah.
them everything from cinnamon rolls to granola bars, peanut butter to apples. I give them CBD. I give one of them CBD gummies.
One of them.
Yeah, I give him Delta 8 CBD gummies, 100 milligrams of P. I give him four 100 milligram gummies, and then he can share them, with his family. Which those don't, 100 milligrams of CBD Delta 8 does not make you high. It makes you feel good.
Hmm.
It makes me feel sober. If anything, it makes me feel
Mm.
relaxed and have energy.
All
Is
right.
I like to think. I don't feel high at all. And so I share that with them. And usually when I get up the next day, there'll be at least one gummy sitting in the chair where I leave the food.
Wow.
I won't touch it, and then it'll get gone the next night.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and sometimes it's all gone, but I'll leave a lot of food, and it all goes overnight, and there's no crumbs where I leave the food. You could tell something picked it up and took it away with hands,
Hmm.
because it's like I'm talking like 16 granola bars, seven double chocolate macaroons, four cinnamon rolls, and four gummies all at one time. I leave in the chair.
Wow.
Okay, and I don't always leave that much, but
Hmm.
sometimes see there's two families around me, and then there's other families that come and go, and there's other families that live up in the mountains. So they share it,
Mm.
and then across the road I take 2 to 3 jars of peanut butter, big jars, maybe some cinnamon rolls, a big bag of apples. Like I'll buy 3 bags of apples and split it between the two families.
So cool.
Apples are going up. They're going so high, but they grow apples here too, though. So I wait till they grow them here, and I get them a lot cheaper. Get the best apples for cheap.
Mm.
But and I told the Sabe people recently, I said I can't afford apples anymore. I can't pay $5 for 3 pounds of apples to the ones out on the road that I talked to. And so I told them, I said I'm just gonna have to do granola bars for a while, and then when the apples come back in season, I'll get you the apples again. From the
Mm.
local grower, because I can get a bushel for like $20, I think, or something like that. It's ridiculous. And they seem to understand all that. Like, and that's another
Mm.
thing. If people have problems with Sabe people, go out and talk to them like a human. You'd be surprised at how much they understand.
Wow.
Especially if you have a problem and they want to work it out too. And you'd be surprised at how much they want to work it out. They're just so set to protect themselves or their family.
Wow.
It's like we are. They
Mm.
really are reflections of us.
Mm.
You know how they say a lot of times a snake is more scared of you than you are of it?
Hmm.
I don't want to compare them to snakes like that, but and I don't even snakes aren't bad. I mean, we got to get off this. Everything's
I gotcha.
evil, but they're like that. I think a lot of times they're more scared of us than we are of them, or just as scared, but in a
I could see
different
that.
way.
Yep.
They know they can take us out, but they're trying to make that decision.
Hmm.
It's a time where I need to do that. There's a time where I need to let this human pass. Let them be an
Hmm.
asshole for a minute and just go on their way.
Hmm.
They have to think about all those things. So I want to suggest to people too that when we're in their presence, we think we have only two choices in our minds when we get scared, and that's fight or flight. I want to remind you that we have a third choice, and it's called peace. So instead of fight or flight, go to peace,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
then make your decision from that space of peace. Now, if there's a wild animal running at you, I'm not telling you to stand there and try to get yourself to go at peace.
Mm.
Meaning like a bear charging you or something like that. No, I'm not. And I'm not telling you to stand there and pray to God. I get in your car and get the f out of there. Whatever you got to do. But when you're dealing with Sabe people, and you get scared, and this will happen repeatedly, your mind will keep going back to fight or flight. That's a reactionary response. It's natural. They're doing it
Hmm.
too to some degree. The less you do it, the less they'll do it.
Mm.
And the more you get to peace, the more you practice it, the more you're around them, the more you calm down
I like that.
yourself, instead of putting your thoughts way out here. Way
Mm.
out here. Fear. What if this happens? What happens here? What if this happens? Blah, 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 blah. If you know you're talking to Sabe people, start relaxing.
Mm.
If you're strongly aware of that, you're hearing knocks, you're hearing, or you're hearing, when you're talking, you say, "Are you a Sabe?" I asked them. It's on one of my recordings. Will you let me know you're a Sabe person, so I know you're not a bear, a boar, or a panther?
Wow.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
takes a few minutes, but eventually you'll get them to start knocking or responding to you.
Mm.
And you can tell them, say, "Bear, boar, panther, hurt me. I'm not worried about your people hurting me if you don't want to. I don't want to hurt
Mm.
you." Tell them you don't. I'm not a threat. I don't carry a gun when I'm out. If you do carry a gun, it would be best to tell them you have a gun.
Mm.
And I would recommend leaving it in the car if possible. If you have to carry it on you, say, I have a gun. I apologize for carrying it around your people. It is not for your people. It's only for bad humans or dangerous animals.
Mm.
I'm very clear about that, things like that.
Mm.
I think all these things are highly important. You really need to explain yourself. If you promise them something and you can't do it for them, explain to them why.
Mm.
And make sure you go do it. Don't just blow it off like a friend you don't give a about, because they won't
Mm.
appreciate that. I'm just trying to tell people how to have ongoing friendships.
Yeah.
And if you do something wrong or if you forget about them, they'll call you out on it. And if I know of one lady, she forgot to take them. She forgot to give them their. She's a great lady, sweet lady, nothing mean at all, and she wasn't being rude. She went to church and forgot to leave them their bucket of food out that she would leave. And she got home. They didn't do anything bad to her. They just left the bucket turned upside down on her porch.
Mm.
They let her know, hey, you forgot about us. They
Mm.
weren't mad. They just letting her know. But they take those things seriously. They take a friendship seriously.
Mm.
And I think that's
Wow.
why I get along with them, because I have lost a lot of friends taking my friendships too seriously. And I don't know if I was really wrong to do that in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. But if somebody tells me they're going to call me or do something with me, or
Keeping your word.
you don't,
Yeah.
if you don't contact me and let me know that you need to cancel with me, I don't even care for what the reason is. Just be straight up with me, and it's not always a consistent thing that someone's mistreating me. That I'm okay with them if they start mistreating me constantly, telling me they're coming out, making plans with me. Those remind me of things that happened to me when I was a child. I don't want to go through that at 45. I'm not going to deal with those kind of people.
Mm.
And I think one of the reasons I and the Sabe get along so well is because they feel the same way I do about that.
Keep
And
your
so
word, it sounds like, right?
I keep my word with them as best I can. I really do. And if I have any problems, I explain myself to them.
Mm.
And they don't seem to be mad. And then if you make mistakes, they're not as mad because they know you're going to explain yourself.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? They come to expect, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is actually a good human.
Yeah, that actually makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can't say I have that understanding, but it makes sense.
it should make sense to a common sense human. You know what I mean? It's the common
Yeah.
sense of good friend, good family.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you be a good friend? How do you be good to your
It's a
family?
it's a great perspective, I think. Just I don't think lots of people would intuitively think of it this way.
No, you keep your word. Yeah, you're right. And now that we're there, keep your word with their people.
Hmm.
I'm a friend of them and keep their word. And okay, so I want to go into something else before we lose it, because I'm not rushing things, although I will need to eat before long. But we're at 2 hours now. First of all, the Sabe people are not the Nephilim, and I know I can't name names because that would just make things worse for everybody, I guess, involved. But there are some Sabe researchers, Sasquatch researchers, who believe, and they believe they have the findings, the backing, the biblical backing. One fellow's even at least one fellow's written a whole book about how the Sabe are the Nephilim. And just to be clear,
Hmm.
the Nephilim are mentioned in the Bible as the children of the fallen angels. And it says that the fallen angels came to earth, and these are angels that supposedly rebelled against God or the creator or whatever, the Hebrew God anyway. And they came to earth and they brought ways of industrialization to man, if you read the book of Enoch, which is not in the Bible.
Hmm.
And they taught man architecture, they taught man blacksmithing, they taught man farming. And as you can see, we are doing these things in excess. Blacksmithing can lead to war. Farming can lead to destruction of the earth. And I'm not putting these things down alone themselves. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling blacksmithers to stop doing what they're doing or anything like that. Don't take me that way. Okay? This is very clear, going back to trying to understand things on a much larger scale. And then architecture again. We tear down trees, we tear down more of the earth to build homes, to build buildings, to build this, to build that. So all these things are the way, because of profit, really, because of greed and money more than anything. They've gotten out of hand, and so they are more or less destroying the earth. Blacksmithing, you create metal. Metal leads to war. I mean, that's what it. In times before, that's what blacksmithing was mostly used for. Besides horseshoes, it was used to make swords and weaponry,
Mm.
armor, what have you. And so it's now, and that's still what it's being used for now in this day and age. Yeah, it's used to make cars, and it helps humans out, and blah blah blah. But that's what it's led to. I'm not calling it bad or evil. I'm only telling you what I've read and what I understand. So these fallen angels also laid with human women, and they bore children with them. And these children, it says, according to the Bible, these children, I think it's in Genesis, that these children were giants, became giants that devoured men.
Hmm.
Okay. And people want to look into that literally, and I'm saying that maybe it's literal and maybe it's also figurative. Maybe
Mm.
it's also metaphorical, that industrialization has devoured the lives of men. It's taken the men away from their families to where they have to go work every day.
Mm.
Not just men, women too. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm not trying to sound one way or the other, but
Yep.
everybody's dealing with it. And they're taken away from our children. Then children are forced to go to school, so they don't learn things at home from their family, like they did in the old days. They don't learn by doing out in the field, by working out in the field or being out in nature, learning what the birds are to survive and to live around. They're learning how to live in the industrialized human world. So it has taken us away from the life that the Sabe people live. I mean, they're much more peaceful and happy than we are, as far as I can tell.
Mm.
And I may just be speaking for myself. I don't know, but anyway, the Sabe people. When I asked the Sabe people where they came from, what I got from an elder, uh, telepathically, was that they have been on the earth a long, long, long time. And then I saw a timeline in my mind, and literally it was just showing me, it didn't have an exact date on it. It was just showing me that they were here long before man was here, and long before any beliefs of God from man developed.
Wow.
They were here long before the Bible. And people need to start realizing that the Epic of Gilgamesh is older than the Bible. And there are many things that are written down in the Epic of Gilgamesh that are parallel to the Bible and make one question what's going on there, and
Hmm.
why there's so many connections there. Also, there's a story of a forest man named Enkidu, I think, Enkidu, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, and that might be a better source for learning about the Sabe people. But it also says he was created by a goddess
Hmm.
or a god, and he was created to battle Gilgamesh. But they fought to a draw, and then they became the best of friends. But Enkidu is also civilized. He was made civilized before this happened, so that would have been kind of a curse on himself. But it says he was made as a man, that he was never a child, that he was made as a man. That's
Huh.
interesting. But that he was covered in hair, and he lived wild in the forest. And what's interesting is I was telling you the stories about the gorillas that were finding the traps, the poachers' traps.
Yeah.
I just heard today the reason Gilgamesh and Enkidu began to have a conflict was because Enkidu kept taking down the trappers, what they had said, poachers' setups. They weren't poachers; they were trappers back then. They were just trying to catch animals to feed their family. And the hunters, I'm sorry, trappers, hunters, and they would go and tell Gilgamesh, the king, hey, Enkidu's tearing up our traps so that we can't catch food. I find that very interesting.
Mm.
It's kind of a funny parallel. But yeah, also gorillas. I say it on the show. Gorillas are learning how to tear down the traps of poachers, and
Yeah.
even the youngest ones are learning how. And you can find this evidence of this on YouTube. So that's awesome that researchers are observing that happening. So that's yay. Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And also the issues that the Sabe people face are much the same that I learned about in primatology conservation. So it'd be human development, of land, cutting down of trees and forests, naturally, and pollution of water sources and things like that. And then I guess if you live in Oklahoma or Texas, then you got to worry about being shot at more. I'm not sure. Again, they say you can in Oklahoma. They say you have to bring it in unharmed, but to me that's kind of a bogus.
Hmm.
The whole idea is bogus, really. I
Yeah.
don't understand why states can't just promote Sasquatch as a positive tourist attraction, where you just say, hey, we have them here, come out to the forest and you might see one,
Yeah.
but no guns needed, no shooting, we don't need all
Mm.
that. And then they can still make money that way.
Mhm.
Me, as for somebody like me, I would advise people to stay out of that state until they change the laws personally,
Mm.
as much as possible, or at least from spending too much money in such states. Same thing goes for Georgia, and that's just because they have those faulty speed detection ticket devices everywhere. But anyways, that's another story. Um, but, but anywho, if you want to look for Sasquatch origins, I think we're going to find more by looking at early humans, which we have discovered. What, in the last 25 years, we've discovered like 10 species,
Mm.
or bones of 10 species. The oldest one being 4 million years old. So
Wow.
that's the Bible's only what 4,000 years old. The stories that are about 6,000 years old in it, roughly. I'm
Mm.
roughly kind of guesstimating here, not claiming to be a Bible scholar or anything. I'm just a preacher. Then you've got then the Epic of Gilgamesh is older. The fallen angels supposedly came to Earth around 450 500,000 years ago. I'm not exactly sure how that's dated, but supposedly that's when it happened. So the Nephilim would have come after that. And what I learned from the Sabe is that they were basically telling me, we just don't have anything to do with them. We were here way before them.
Mm.
We just happened to be on the same planet at the same time when they came here. That's it. And I
Mm.
think what a lot of people struggle with is the fact that the Sabe people can disappear and that they can maybe teleport. They can go into portals and things like that. That maybe if Mike is right, maybe if Mike is right, and so maybe the Arizona Four, that maybe they actually live to be over 200 years old. So they would have great health. I I've tended to doubt that, but at the same time, now that they're saying that, and I trust them as researchers, then I'm opening up more to that idea. So, and I don't have to be right. That's another
Yeah.
thing is that we don't as researchers, I think we should be united in the idea that we need to want to keep them safe, want them to be happy, healthy, whole, and strong, and peaceful, and stay safe and protected from humans and human development and so on as much as possible, and that they're not Nephilim.
Mm.
Because to me, you're basically adding an element of prejudice, ignorance, which leads to racism. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that as the son of a preacher who stood up to the KKK in early 1960s South Mississippi, and
Mm.
on more than one occasion, and never had a problem. He always stood his ground and never had a problem. And I carry that same energy into this. I know what
Mm.
they're facing, and I know what they're dealing with. I don't know to the extent they're dealing with it. I don't know every little detail of what they go through in their lives, but I know that they are facing encroachment from humans
Mm.
constantly. And I do fear the day that, more states begin to say, well, let's make it legal to hunt them.
Mm.
You know, we do not need a body. They do not want to be classified.
Mm.
So for the researchers out there that are trying to get them classified, you can walk that path as long as you want, but you're going to figure it out yourself eventually. They're not interested. If they wanted to be classified, they'd be classified by now. They already are classified according to the Army Corps of Engineers Washington State Atlas 1972 or 75.
Yeah.
So, and I think you
Mhm.
might be right about that year, but we need to stand united. That they're peaceful, loving beings, and that if people have problems with them, then we need to help people work out those problems. And so you might learn as much on your own, as a researcher about the Sabe people, and that way you can more adequately deal with the issues they have.
Mm.
One of the guys that's going around and calling them the Nephilim, I won't say his name, but I would really love to debate him publicly on any show, on any format, and I would do so politely. But I don't think he's a bad human. I don't think he's a bad person. I just think he's got mixed up with this whole Nephilim idea. And he's
Mm.
very heavily involved in the Sasquatch DNA program that seemed to do some good work. And there were other people involved with that. A female
Ketchum?
I'm not saying any names, because if I start saying names, then
Oh,
connect to other names, and I can't get negative about people. I could
yeah.
I could ruin things for your show, in a way. I don't want to do that by talking negatively about others.
Yeah.
Want to be careful, but you're on the right track. but not her in particular. But yeah, definitely someone connected to her that's calling the Sasquatch, the Sabe, the Nephilim.
Oh, I was just saying, I wonder if she was the one you referred to with the DNA, nothing, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Gotcha.
This guy's connected to the whole DNA thing with her,
Oh,
and he
okay.
did help. He did help get a bunch of the hair samples. He's gotten lots of pictures, and he's cleaned up the pictures to where you can see their faces a lot of times. He's dealt with the dog men, what he calls the dog men. I call them canid people, the wolf people.
Is that, and you also mean coyote people? Same thing?
Yeah, any kind of
Yeah,
canid.
yeah, yeah, okay.
That's the thing is they can have aspects of any canid. It doesn't
I've
matter.
also heard someone else say that another name is bear people for the same.
It may be. It may be. Yeah, and it may be because it's the easiest thing to connect them with.
Yeah,
I know there was a child that was missing for 3 days, and he said a bear took care of him and gave him berries out
yeah,
in eastern North Carolina. That's a story of, I don't want to say his name because I'm afraid people will go trying to interview
I've
him.
heard of that, yeah.
Um, but he said a bear took care of him and gave him berries. And all the Sabe Sasquatch researchers are hearing that story going, yeah, right. That's just because he doesn't know what an ape is. He would have said a gorilla otherwise.
Yeah,
A bear's not going to take care of a human child. Sorry, it's
yeah,
just not going to. Maybe if it was raised around humans, that would be different, but not out in the wild. It's just not going to happen. But the Sasquatch, there are several stories, and I have a human friend. Actually, I'd like to share a story real quick.
yeah.
There's two. This is two stories that tie together. I have a friend named Lee, and Lee is about 70 years old. And Lee had told me this story years ago, but she said that when she was at the base, or excuse me, when she was on top of a mountain where her grandfather lived, it's a locally well-known mountain around here. I'm not
Hmm.
going to say the name of the mountain, but it was the name of a very popular movie some time back. But anyways, people can kind of guess from what it is. But on that mountain, her grandfather lived on top of there, and he had a friendship with the Sabe people already.
Wow.
And she was around 12 years old, and she was out playing in the forest by herself, or out in the open field. And she said that it was a beautiful day, and all of a sudden, a giant monster jumped up out of the ground, literally, is what she said, and looked at her with the scariest face and told her in plain English and pointed and said, "Leave."
Wow.
Like told her to leave the towards and pointed towards her grandfather's house, like get out of here. And
Wow.
she was terrified. She thought it was going to hurt her or something. She ran back to her grandfather. A few minutes later, a massive landslide happened, and there were trees and rocks and boulders everywhere where she was,
Whoa.
or everything was gone. And what's highly interesting about this story is just a couple of months ago, my friend who I meet up, with the first family is, she told me about a story, and I'd never told her about this story. She told me about a story that said a man, a grown man, who said that he was at the base of that same mountain when he was young and he was fishing. And he said that as he was fishing, all of a sudden, a great big Sabe man walked out of the trees and told him, "Leave, get out." Like, just leave. He didn't say any other words, but I always say, "Get out of here now," but that's the impression of leave.
Hmm.
And he said the boy just thought, well, I better get out of here. I'm going to get hurt. So he ran out of there. And next thing you know, a big, massive wall of water and tree and debris came rushing down. And I can't help but to wonder if that didn't happen on the same dang day.
Wow.
Unless I could talk to that man and find out how old he is, my friend said, I think she heard it on the computer, but he mentioned the same mountain
Wow.
that my friend was talking about. But that's two places where they saved the lives of children. And
Wow.
that's two people that don't know each other telling the same story about the same mountain. And science won't look at that as evidence, and that's why you kind of got to go and say, well, there's logic in that.
Hmm.
There is absolute logic in that, especially if another man has been saying that he's been talking to them, her grandfather, on top of the mountain for many years already. There's
Yep.
logic to human eyewitness testimony.
Yep.
And if Native people, and the biggest thing, to me, one of the most disrespectful and racist things that we do is that we disregard what Native people have been saying for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And that drives me up a wall. But do you know what scientists do when they want to learn about and discover a new creature, when they go to that area, you know what the first thing they do is?
Mm.
They go talk to the natives.
Mm.
But then when we bring up Bigfoot, they start saying, "Oh no, that's not real. The North American forest could support a great ape like that."
Yeah.
We assume it's a great ape. It
Right.
couldn't be a Neanderthal, could it?
Mm.
Couldn't be a Denisovan, could it? Couldn't be Homo erectus. Just no, they're extinct. They're gone. We hadn't seen them in years. No way. Just because someone doesn't experience something doesn't change another person's experience.
Yeah.
Just because someone doesn't believe, somebody could tell me, I don't believe in Bigfoot all day, or I don't believe you all day. And I could just say, well, it doesn't, I'd say, okay. And then I'd turn around and go home and talk to him at night. What am I
Yeah.
supposed to do? I wrote in the song about the Sabe people, in the second verse, I say, skeptics and critics, believe me, I know I feel your pain. It's as if without clouds, I'm asking you, excuse me, skeptics and critics, believe me, I know your pain. It's as if without clouds, I'm asking you to feel the rain. But
Mm.
don't let your logic deceive your own brain. For beyond our reality, there's truths which still remain.
I like
Um,
that.
Thank you. But and it's the truth about many things. Human science, and human physics is the human understanding of our world. That's all it is. So the most intelligent human in the world is an ant compared to other entities, other beings,
Yeah.
other things out there, other things that have been traveling the stars for
Hmm.
centuries, their people, their families, everything they've learned. They've
Mm.
probably gone and made friendships all over the universe, with all different kinds of species, maybe.
Yeah.
And what are we? People, humans don't realize how small we are. I'm not telling people this so they get depressed. I'm telling them so
Mm.
they get excited about discovering the world outside their thinking,
Yeah. And also,
outside their thinking.
I'm sort of led to believe that we're a lot more than we think we are, too.
Yes, or we're connected to a lot more at the least.
Mm. Capable of a lot more.
I believe all the things Save people can do, we could do we used to do, like disappear,
Yeah. I've heard that.
things like that. I don't know for a fact. I can't prove it.
Yeah.
I do know there's magic that you can work that opens portals and doorways, and maybe you could go into another world. But I don't know if the magic to get back would work. So is it really worth it? I'm happy where I am,
Hmm.
personally, for the most part. But anyway, but yeah, there's so many things beyond our understanding that we don't consider, that we need to begin to consider. And I think one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is videos of shark divers taking hooks out of sharks' mouths, and
Mm.
then and and the sharks know what they're doing, and they come and put their head in the divers will sit on the bottom of the, not the very bottom of the ocean, but the bottom of the seafloor where they're at.
Wow.
It may just be 10 or 15 feet deep. They'll sit down there, and the sharks will swim up to them, and they will put their heads in the diver's lap just like a friggin' dog, and they will let the diver take the hook out of their mouth. One lady has collected over 300 hooks,
Wow.
and I think that video is a few years old. And they never hurt her. She's not dead. She's still alive this day. And there's another man that's done that, and he's made friends with certain sharks, and they come back and visit him.
Wow.
So we need to really open up and start thinking about. So obviously, those sharks are communicating to other sharks. How are they telling them?
Wow.
Maybe there's some body language in there, but maybe it's telepathic.
Wow.
And they're sending, because sharks really don't attack humans in general. They
Hmm.
attack them because they mistake them for other food. We're
Okay.
foreign to them for the most part.
You're actually you reminded me of just a little theory that this kind of brought me to, which I think is kind of the same, which is maybe because you see videos of people wrestling with bears,
Yeah,
and it's just
they're not wild bears.
maybe maybe some of the animals out there aren't quite as savage as we're taught to believe.
Well, the people, when they wrestle with the bears, those bears are usually captured as babies and then raised with humans. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And of course, I'm not recommending anyone go wrestle a
oh
bear,
yeah,
but just a little the story that you just gave about sharks.
yeah. Well, you definitely don't want to wrestle with a shark, but these to see, you need to watch these videos. I recommend people watching these videos because it's beautiful. Even I think Sasquatch researchers should watch these videos. Any interactions between humans and animals we can learn from, because
Yeah.
they are part. Well, we're all part animal. Let's just be realistic about it. But they are very animalistic. They have a very wild side to them. It doesn't mean they're going to hurt you or anything like that. They have more. They have a lot of self control. But to watch these videos of these sharks coming back, and it may be by smell that they recognize these humans. I don't know, because they can smell things underwater in their own way. So I think they smell blood, a long way away. But and maybe that's how they know these humans, because sharks don't have the greatest eyesight because the way their eyes are positioned and so on.
Hmm.
I've watched a lot of shows about a lot of animals to learn. Just I know a little bit about a lot. I don't know. I'm not a shark expert, but watching these videos was very eye opening.
Hmm.
And these sharks, like one had its hook taken out, and then it literally told other sharks, "Go visit this lady," and then she's taking sharks,
Wow.
the hooks out of their mouth. She's got 300 over 300. That's amazing. And so
Hmm.
we need to start opening up, and humans need to start reminding themselves of that when they start saying, "This is impossible. That's not possible. That's not possible."
Hmm.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Hmm.
I'm sorry. You're wrong. I'm sorry, not sorry. You're wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. Let it be okay to be wrong. It's okay when I'm wrong. I've been wrong several times. And I'm still wrong a lot.
Hmm.
And really, nobody's right. We're just all seeking the truth. So whatever the truth is, that's what it is. And
Hmm.
it's not what you make it. It's not what I make it. It's the truth. You know,
Yeah.
do they exist? Yes, they exist. That's the truth. Does someone accept it or believe it? That's not my problem. Um, that's on them. There was a time when I really wanted to prove things to people, and now I don't feel that desire so greatly anymore. I really just, because it takes away from it, just enjoying the friendship
Yeah.
of being with the Sabe people. And I also want to tell people not to try to get, if you make friends with Sabe people, don't try not to get too focused on the fact that they disappear or do this or do that. That's so magical. I
Hmm.
mean, if you want to study it, yeah, that's awesome. And that's fine. And ask them questions though. Until you get an answer. Keep asking.
Hmm.
Um, well, don't piss them off, but you know what I'm saying. Just ask questions and try to learn that way. Focus on the friendship, because if you focus on the friendship, then you're going to learn. You're going to get a lot more back in knowledge and wisdom about their people over time. And you have to
Hmm.
be patient with this, but you're going to get a lot back more. I mean, yeah, that's right. A lot more back. I'm sorry, the words I was looking for, and I'm sure Mike would agree with that. Just go out and be a friend to him. Mike at the
Hmm.
Arizona 4, anybody like that would
Hmm.
be a friend to him, and you'll get a whole lot more out of it being patient.
Hmm.
And the best things do come to those who wait. They really do, and sometimes they come fast. But be willing to be patient.
Hmm.
You said you got some tree snaps pretty quick. It's hard
Very
for me to
quick.
record tree snaps. They're not very. They don't do that a lot when I go out. They'll break branches. They just mostly talk to me, knock, whoop, and
Yeah.
I'll get some loud knocks. But they'll. And I realize too, a lot of times I come back and listen to my recordings. There's whoops that my ears didn't hear.
Hmm.
They're below. I think a lot of things they do below human hearing. Because I've stood in front of my mother before, and I go, and I said, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "No. What'd you do? What'd you say?" And I said, "I just looked." And she's like, "No, I didn't hear you." And I did it again. "No, I didn't hear you." So it's below her hearing.
Hmm.
So different people are going to have different levels of hearing. So when you share sounds with people, they may not hear. So maybe, you know, I don't know what the word is, but they may hear higher pitch sounds more.
Yeah.
They may hear lower pitch sounds
Hmm.
more, And then you may have people like me who are musicians, and I'm deaf in my right ear, but I hear high and low in the left all night
Hmm.
long. As long as my ears aren't filling up with pressure.
Hmm.
But anyways, so those are all things to consider. When you're sharing, when you're out listening. And I advise people, if you're going out doing researching together, tag sounds together. If you're not just directly talking to them and trying to maintain that conversation. But I took my friend Brian out. We tag sounds together. So that way we're hearing sounds, and then we say tag at the same time, and we both. I got it on recorder. That's 3 witnesses right there. That's me, that's Brian, that's the recorder right there. That we heard it at the same time. And me and Brian and the recorder. Recorder's a witness. Recorder's the best witness you got. And recorder's going to give you the least amount of headache out in the field, as long as you don't put on with too many gadgets and too many things on it. I recommend Tascam. I like their recorders because the lights turn off after a couple of seconds. You can just put it in your pocket.
Okay.
Now, I recommend using lavalier microphones, clip-on. If you clip on like for a podcast or a newscast, but find good ones. Sony makes a pretty good one that's only $30 right now. I would jump on it for a lot of people. And then there's other condenser mics. I do not recommend Rode lavalier microphones because their microphones give out over time. The lavalier, the clip-on, their wires are too dinky and they start going stuff all the recordings. And the same thing with Ceramonic. But I've had I like Asden, has a good wire on it, Sony, and I like using Tascam recorders. And you can just run those little microphones into those. You put that Tascam recorder. There's no Bluetooth, nothing. If you want that crap, you go talk to somebody else. But I think the less devices you have on you, and the less output the devices you have on you, is better for your conversations with the Sabe people. I think that just the more electronic stuff, the more they're. I put my phone away. It's in my back pocket. But it's away. It's if the ringer's off, I'm not texting. I'm not calling anybody, unless there's an emergency that I need to be aware of or whatever. And I can leave the phone in the car, and I'll tell them, hey, my phone's on, but I got an emergency tonight. It's just from talking to humans. I always have to explain these things.
That makes sense.
A lot of times I'll go outside to talk on the phone, and they'll start knocking or whooping at me. Like, why are you shining that light? And I'll either telepathically or in words and say, I'm just talking to a human friend on the phone. That's all it's for. No problems. You can just feel the energy of, okay, no problem. No big deal. But yeah, they love to put up tree structures. We didn't even talk about that, but that's in the book. If people want to check out my book, there's a link to buy my book on my channel.
I'll put one below this too.
Oh, you did? Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
Brother Littlefoot. And the channel is for recordings. You don't have to buy the book. You can actually read the first 3 sections of the book for free on the site. It's Amazon Kindle. You can only buy it on ebook. I don't have paperback because I would have to invest a ton of money that I don't have into that. So doing ebooks allows poor authors like me to be able to get a book out there, and it's $7.99, and I get $5.99 of that. And I'm not trying to get rich off of Sasquatch. Obviously, I'd be like another human I know and offering to take people out in the wilderness for $3,000.
Wow.
What's crazy is you don't have to do that. Let me tell you something. If you're paying somebody $5,000, $3,000, $1,000, $200 to go out and take you and talk to a Sasquatch, stop right there. Go buy my book. And if you don't buy my book, buy somebody else's book that tells you how to talk to Sabe people. I don't care, as long as it's a good one and it's peaceful and loving and teaches in a good way. Or go listen to my recordings and just go out and use that and listen carefully and listen how I'm just kind to them and respectful. And I realize I'm in their territory. It's not mine. You know, I even apologize at times just for being me. And you don't have to do all those things, but it just shows a level of humility that they can relate to. Another thing I want to point out is that most great apes recognize this symbol, palms out, as being submissive. I notice that when I'm talking a lot, I do this. My palms are all.
I can't. Just palms up.
Yeah, palms out and up. Chimpanzees, a lot of times when they don't mean any harms towards humans, they'll go towards them.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I mentioned earlier that I had compiled someone called the Owl Man's suggestions.
Yeah.
And something he proposed, if you want to introduce yourself on your property or whatever, is right hand out, palm facing up.
Yeah, well, I'd do it either way. I'd show both hands just so that, because, I don't want them to know what my left hand might be hiding. I don't want them to think my left hand's hiding anything. I'm sorry.
That's a good thought.
But all palms out is a universal amongst primates, I think, at least chimpanzees.
Wow.
As submission, meaning I don't mean any harm. And it's showing them. I don't have any guns. I don't have any weapons. I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I will tell them I have a recorder. I'll tell them I have a recorder. It's just for hearing. It doesn't see you, and I'll cover my eyes.
Mm.
Anytime I'm trying to say I can't see you, I'm not trying to see you, go invisible. These are I use my hands a lot, and I think that helps. I think they read body language a lot. I think it helps them to understand actual language, spoken language.
Okay.
But yeah, when I'm talking to you, my hands are always out. Actually, that's a sign of honesty.
Mm.
So I think to show them that they realize that they read body language. So if you're closed in all the time, if it's cold, tell them it's cold, and they get it. They understand, that. But
Mm.
put your hands out a lot, talk to them a lot. Let them see your hands.
Mm.
The more they can see, you're doing your activity,
I
the more they
like
trust.
that.
But anyways,
Would you? I have a couple more questions. Are you still good, or?
yeah, and I'll try to be a little.
Sure. Yeah.
In 3 hours.
Just one last quick one was I wanted to ask about the woman that when we were talking about the being possibly tagged or marked, and the woman said to them that she would like to be friends with them. Was there any
Yeah.
response to
Oh, I'm
that?
sorry. Yeah, they ended up living at her house. That's the family. I was one of the family friends I was telling you about. They ended up living at her house. That's where the
Wow.
grandchildren went out with me. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I apologize if I didn't connect that.
No, no, no.
All.
No, wow.
I've been
I
bummed.
just was wondering when you mentioned that. I was like,
Dude,
wow.
there's so many stories up in this head right here, man.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
true. There's just so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where the grandchildren, them and then the grandchildren came out with me, and we all talked to them for about 45 minutes or so.
And then when you weren't there, they still had things happen.
She told me they haven't had a lot, because their house is, well, it's not that far away from the woods or anything, but they just stay near the home and they just kind of let them have their space.
Okay.
Now, when the yeah, actually, when the grandchildren were there one day, before they ever knew about that, they said they felt something watching them and they saw a black shadow in the middle of the day moving
Wow.
through the
Okay.
forest somewhere, somehow. I
Hmm.
don't know the exact details.
Okay.
We didn't get to that, but I definitely relate that to the Sabe people, and I think they were
Yeah.
enjoying watching the children play and seeing what they were up to.
Yeah.
So, and because they were very kind to the children definitely had an experience, but
Wow.
yeah, that was the response to that. Is they ended up living with them. And I
Wow.
don't know if they might have been there. I'd never been to their house before that time.
Maybe just weren't aware before, or.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's possible. Obviously, they were already at my house my father grew up in, behind the family cabin, behind the cousin's home,
Wow.
behind my sister's home, behind my mother's home.
Do you think? I feel like. Do you feel that you might have had to do with this? That they maybe made their presence more known through you as the catalyst, or were they all aware of this always
Um,
around all their homes?
oh no, I think I might be the catalyst, or
Okay.
it might be that we are going through some changes in the atmosphere, the between worlds or something where they're merging.
Okay.
Like I said, where maybe they've been living alongside us all this time and not being seen, and now all of a sudden the worlds are merging and the veil's thin, and
Okay.
lots of. I'm really just throwing out there
Yep.
philosophical possibilities. I really don't
Possibilities.
know. I don't know exactly, but I do know that people that meet one, make friends with them, usually end up with them behind their home. I've never
Okay.
heard of all their friends and family everywhere, but yeah, that's what's
Wow.
happened to me. But I think
Wow.
they just like my friends and family because they're all generally, if you met them, you'd be like, oh, these are cool people. And they'd say the same about you, and
Okay.
they're generally people that just, their first reaction is not to hurt things,
Okay.
if they get scared.
All right.
So that's just the way we are. But
All
anyway.
right.